I am on my way to get myself a Tropius. And okay, now I just gotta avoid that trainer here. Please. Again. Well, at least he'll be beaten for when I come back here later. But yeah, I backtracked to Mobile to buy some Pokeballs, 10 at a time as always, to get the most premier balls possible out of the deal. And I also fought a few rematches, nearly got my Skarmory killed against another of those godforsaken Magnemites. Well, that only means one thing. Skarmory in New Mobile is out of the question. Else it's going to die in every battle it's going to be in. Well, maybe not against the Voltorbs, but there are Magnemites, and if I remember, there are even Magnetons in there. So, no Skarmory there. It's going to be only Blaziken and Gardevoir. Mostly Blaziken, but Gardevoir won't have too many problems in that place. So, as promised, I am going to skip the whole hunt for a Tropius, and I am going to come back when I find one. Well, wouldn't you believe that? Second wild Pokemon, a Tropius. That game is really trying to make me forgive it for that whole Ralph debacle, and I gotta say, it's working rather well. Okay, Swift is deep in the yellow now, so I am going to start throwing balls at it. I guess Premier Balls first, because hey, I got them, they might as well be used for something, right? And I checked its catch rate, it's 200, so I shouldn't have too much of a problem. Let's see how this one turns out. 2, 3, yeah! Only one ball for Tropius! Well, 2 wild battles, 1 ball. This was a remarkably quick catch, a lot easier than I expected it to be. So, with a strength user in hand, it's time to get started on our massive Surf/Strength backtracking session. Route 111, right behind the Winstrade house, and there's an item over there, which is an HP up. That's neat! And I'm gonna check out on that ledge over there. If there's something else, I'll just cut to my next destination. Nope, there's no— oh! I was about to say there's nothing, so I'm gonna skip the rest of this area, but wow! Talk about timing! That why not egg just hatched! Well, next place to visit, Fiery Path. And we're back in the Fiery Path, and since there are wild battles in there, I'm just going to talk about something that really has come up a lot in private messages lately. People are asking me how I do my LPs. Well, I record video using Cam Studio, and at the same time, I record my commentary straight onto Movie Maker. But here's the problem. You need to have some specific settings for both to be recorded at the same time. And I don't know what those settings are. It just works. So I honestly have no clue how I'm doing it. Those settings were there right from the start, and I never had any problems, but it just works. So if you want to make your own LPs by copying on what I do, well, tough luck, because I don't know why it works. And while I was talking about that, I picked up a Toxic TM, which is going to go to either Skarmory or Regice later on. I haven't decided just yet, but for walls like them, Toxic is a pretty good choice for a move, even if it is in-game. And it also increases the catch rate of the Pokemon you inflicted on, but it's a double-edged sword, because if you wait too long to catch them, well, toxic damage is going to become massive, and you are going to end up killing your target, which is why it's recommended to use paralysis? I can never get the hang of that word, it seems. Or sleep. Oh, Firestone! Not gonna use this one, but still a nice find. If you need one, that's where you can find one. The Fiery Path behind the Strength Boulder. But about what I was saying before about recording my LPs, well, part of the reason why I mentioned that is because you have no idea how many private messages I got that asked me this. So now that I've actually said it, I can send them this video, so I can tell them, instead of just typing the same old thing over and over and over again, I can just say, watch this video, I explain why I can't tell you, and there you go. And once I get out of the fiery path, is there anything I need to do before reaching Fall Arbor? I think not. There's that area with the crazy old lady's house, and after that there's a route that's full of volcanic ash. There's obviously not any water there, so I guess our next destination is going to be Fall Arbor Town to give the meteorite back to Professor Cosmo, back in a minute or two. So this is Professor Cosmo's house. You probably recognize it from our first visit here. It was completely empty, I think, or maybe there was this woman there, but Professor Cosmo wasn't there because he was abducted by Team Magma. And, oh, well, you shouldn't speak too soon. Look at what I got! I got the meteorite you want so much. So I'm gonna give it back to you, of course, because I have no use for a meteorite, but I could use a TM. Oh, it's return, maybe? Is it? Yep, it's return. The word's feeling of gratitude gave it all away because, well, return is one of the few moves that work with happiness, and I believe I'm going to give it to Skarmory later on. Not quite yet, because I think for the time being, Swift is still a bit more powerful, but later on in the game I'm going to give it to Skarmory. Black Belt Nub on Route 115. Remember that guy? Well, now what you gotta do to access that secret area on Route 115 is that you go on that beach, you surf all the way up here, and there you go. You saw it at the top of the screen. It's an area that is full of trainers, and I believe it's also pretty much the only area in the game where you can catch a Jigglypuff. So if you want a Jigglypuff, you have to come here. And whoa, level 35 Tentacool at this point in the game? Well, whoever said I was over-leveled, well, eat your heart out. I actually found something that matched my level. Even Norman couldn't. And even there, the only reason why I'm over-leveled is because I'm training 3 team members so far. The other 3 are going to come in a little later on, but that's a sacrifice I'm doing. I'm not just over-leveled. I am also hindering my type coverage quite a bit by only training 3 team members. Not to mention, the computer is going to catch up with me once I get my other team members, especially when I get my Feebas that I'll evolve into my Latick eventually, and it's going to be a bred one, so it's going to start at level 1. Of course, I'm going to do some grinding with rematches and wild Pokemon, but eventually I'm going to have to move on because grinding experience just isn't good enough. So it's going to be quite a catch-up job to have my Latick catch up to my current team members. They're going to be well over 40, I imagine, by the time I actually get that my Latick, which is going to be, as far as I can tell, in Lily Cove City. Oh, and by the way, I finished up the Megaman Anniversary Collection yesterday. It was surprisingly a much better buy than I thought it would be. I just wanted to try out the Megaman series, but I really got into it, I gotta admit. And it's because well, those are difficult games, but it's the kind of difficult that leaves you coming back for more. Yeah, the game pummels you, but you don't want to let the game win, so you come back and eventually you do it. Just tell me about it. I had so much trouble with 2 and 7, and yet I persisted and I managed to beat them both. Well, of course, that wasn't exactly the case for my brother. He got 1 game over against the Yellow Devil in the original Mega Man, and he said, fuck that, I'm not touching that ever again. But he's a lot more persistent when it comes to chaining. I taught him to chain this week, and you're not gonna believe this. He was chaining Beldums, and he got a shiny on the 2nd one! And I'd like to tell you he caught it, but that's not the case. What happened is that the Beldum ran out of takedown PP, and it struggled and died right there, even though his Gengar is out. Yeah, there's struggle recoil, even when struggle doesn't actually connect. What kind of bullshit is that? I honestly did not know that. And speaking of bullshit, random phone calls. So we're going to wrap up this video here, and in the next part I'm going to finish up this area.